Kate Richardson had always been the kind of person who believed in the power of love, conquering all obstacles. At 28, she had built a comfortable life as a marketing coordinator for a small but successful advertising agency in downtown Seattle. Her days were filled with client meetings, creative campaigns, and the occasional coffee break with her colleagues. But it was her evenings that truly mattered to her, those precious hours spent with William Chun, the man she had been dating for 2.5 years. William was everything Kate had ever wanted in a partner. He was kind, intelligent, and had a way of making her laugh even on her worst days. As a software engineer at a tech startup, he worked long hours, but he always made time for Kate. They had met at a mutual friend's birthday party, and from their first conversation about their shared love of hiking and old movies, Kate knew there was something special about him. Their relationship had progressed naturally and beautifully. They had moved in together 8 months ago, sharing a cozy 2-bedroom apartment in Capitol Hill. Kate had converted the second bedroom into a home office where she could work on freelance projects, while William had set up a small corner with his computer equipment for when he needed to work from home. They had fallen into an easy routine of cooking dinner together, watching Netflix, and planning weekend adventures around the Pacific Northwest. Kate often found herself daydreaming about their future together. She imagined them getting married in a small ceremony, surrounded by family and friends, perhaps in one of the beautiful parks they loved to explore. She pictured them buying a house with a garden where she could grow vegetables and flowers and maybe even getting a dog. These dreams felt so real and achievable that she had started dropping subtle hints about engagement rings and their future plans. William always seemed receptive to these conversations, nodding and smiling when she pointed out wedding dresses in shop windows or mentioned how beautiful a particular venue would be for a ceremony. He would hold her hand a little tighter when she talked about their future, and Kate took these gestures as signs that they were on the same page about where their relationship was heading. On this particular Tuesday evening in late October, Kate arrived home from work feeling exhausted but content. She had successfully presented a new campaign to a major client, and her boss had praised her innovative approach. All she wanted was to share her good news with William and spend a quiet evening together. She kicked off her heels at the door and called out his name, but the apartment was silent. She remembered that he had mentioned working late on a critical project deadline. Kate decided to surprise William by cooking his favorite meal, homemade pasta with her grandmother's secret marinara sauce. She changed into comfortable clothes and headed to the kitchen, pulling out all the ingredients she would need. As she began preparing the sauce, she felt grateful for this life they had built together. The kitchen smelled amazing as the garlic and herbs sizzled in the olive oil, and she could almost picture William's face when he walked through the door to find his favorite dinner waiting. While the sauce simmered, Kate settled onto the couch with a glass of wine and her laptop to catch up on some emails. She noticed that William had left his phone on the coffee table, which was unusual since he rarely went anywhere without it. The screen was face down, and Kate didn't think much of it until she heard the distinctive ping of a text message notification. The phone lit up, and even though it was face down, the notification preview was visible from the side. Kate wasn't the type to snoop through her partner's messages. She had always believed that trust was the foundation of any strong relationship. But as she reached over to flip the phone face up so William wouldn't miss the message when he got home, she caught a glimpse of the sender's name that made her heart skip a beat. The message was from someone named Sarah, and the preview text that was visible made Kate's blood run cold. "I can't wait to see you again tomorrow. Last night was incredible, and Kate's hand froze in midair, the phone still in her grasp. She stared at the screen, hoping she had misread the message, but the words remained the same. Her mind raced as she tried to process what she was seeing. Who was Sarah? What did last night refer to? William had told her he was working late the previous evening and had come home around 11 o'clock, seeming tired and distracted. The sauce continued to bubble on the stove, filling the apartment with its rich aroma, but Kate could no longer smell it. Everything around her seemed to fade into background noise as her world tilted on its axis. She set the phone down with trembling hands and stared at it as if it were a dangerous object that might explode at any moment. Kate's rational mind tried to find innocent explanations for the message. Maybe Sarah was a co-worker, and they were working on a project together. Perhaps last night referred to a work meeting or team dinner. But the intimate tone of the message, particularly the phrase, "I can't wait to see you again," suggested something far more personal than a professional relationship. She found herself picking up the phone again, her finger hovering over the screen. Part of her desperately wanted to unlock it and read the full conversation to understand the context and scope of whatever was happening between William and this Sarah person. But another part of her, the part that still believed in their relationship and trusted the man she loved, resisted the urge to invade his privacy. Kate paced around the living room, her mind spinning with questions and fears. She thought about all the late nights William had claimed to be working recently. There had been several occasions over the past few months when he had come home later than usual, seeming distant and preoccupied. She had attributed this to work stress and the pressure of his startup's upcoming product launch. Now, those innocent explanations seemed naive and foolish. How could she have been so blind? Were there other signs she had missed? Kate replayed recent conversations and interactions in her mind, searching for clues that might have revealed the truth about William's behavior. She remembered how he had been more protective of his phone lately, taking it with him to the bathroom and keeping it face down on the nightstand while they slept. She had noticed that he sometimes stepped out to take phone calls, claiming they were work-related. There had also been a few occasions when she had tried to plan spontaneous date nights, only to be told that William had last-minute work commitments. The sound of the apartment door opening jolted Kate from her spiraling thoughts. She heard William's familiar footsteps in the entryway and his cheerful "I'm home." She quickly placed his phone back on the coffee table exactly where she had found it and rushed to the kitchen to check on the sauce, hoping to compose herself before facing him. "Something smells amazing in here," William said as he entered the kitchen, leaning down to kiss Kate on the cheek. She forced herself to smile and accept his kiss, even though her skin crawled at his touch. "I thought I'd surprise you with your favorite," Kate managed to say, her voice sounding strangely normal despite the chaos in her head. "How was work?" "Oh, the usual chaos," William replied, loosening his tie. "We're so close to launching the new features, but there are still a million bugs to fix. I might have to work late again tomorrow night." Kate's heart sank at his words. Tomorrow night. Wasn't that when Sarah expected to see him again? The coincidence felt too painful to ignore, but Kate nodded and continued stirring the sauce, afraid that her face might betray her knowledge of his secret. "That's okay," she said quietly. "I understand how important this project is to you." William seemed to accept her response without question, and he headed to the bedroom to change out of his work clothes. Kate heard him rummaging around in their dresser drawers, and then she heard the distinctive sound of his phone buzzing with another message. Her heart hammered in her chest as she waited to see how he would react. "Kate, did you see my phone anywhere?" William called from the living room. "It's on the coffee table," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. She heard him pick up the device and the soft beeping sounds as he unlocked it and scrolled through his messages. Kate strained to listen for any change in his breathing or movement that might indicate his reaction to Sarah's text, but William remained silent. After a few moments, she heard the familiar sounds of him typing a response. Kate felt sick to her stomach. Here she was preparing a loving dinner for her boyfriend, while he was apparently texting another woman just a few feet away. The normalcy of the situation felt surreal and heartbreaking. How long had this been going on? How many other evenings had they spent together while William was secretly communicating with Sarah? When William returned to the kitchen, he seemed relaxed and happy, chatting about his day and complimenting the smell of the cooking food. Kate found herself studying his face, searching for any signs of guilt or deception, but he appeared completely at ease. Either he was an incredibly skilled liar, or he truly felt no remorse about whatever was happening with Sarah. As they sat down to dinner, Kate struggled to maintain normal conversation. Every smile felt forced, every laugh hollow. William seemed oblivious to her distress, talking enthusiastically about his work projects and asking about her successful client presentation. Under normal circumstances, Kate would have been delighted to share her professional triumph with the person she loved most. But now even her work achievements felt meaningless in the shadow of this devastating discovery. "You seem quiet tonight," William observed as they were clearing the dinner dishes. "Is everything okay?" Kate's heart raced as she considered her options. She could confront him directly about the message, demanding an explanation and honesty. She could pretend everything was fine while secretly investigating further. Or she could find some middle ground, expressing her concerns without revealing exactly what she had seen. "I'm just tired," she said finally, taking the coward's way out. It was a long day. William accepted her explanation and suggested they watch a movie together, something light and funny to help her unwind. As they settled onto the couch, Kate felt like she was living in an alternate reality. Here was the man she loved, the man she had been planning to spend her life with, cuddling with her and making jokes about the movie while secretly carrying on with another woman. The phone sat innocuously on the coffee table, but Kate could barely look at it without feeling nauseated. Every time it buzzed with a notification, she wondered if it was another message from Sarah. William would casually check his messages during commercial breaks, his face revealing nothing about their content. As the evening wore on, Kate found herself memorizing details about William's behavior, looking for patterns that might help her understand the scope of his deception. She noticed that he kept his phone closer to him than usual and that he seemed to be typing messages more frequently. When she excused herself to use the bathroom, she caught him quickly closing an app on his phone screen. By the time they went to bed, Kate felt emotionally and physically exhausted. She lay beside William in their shared bed, listening to his steady breathing as he fell asleep quickly and peacefully. How could he sleep so soundly while living such a lie? Kate stared at the ceiling for hours, her mind racing with questions and scenarios. She thought about Sarah, this mysterious woman who had entered their lives and shattered Kate's sense of security. Was Sarah aware that William was in a committed relationship? Did she know that there was another woman who loved him and believed they had a future together? Or was she just as deceived as Kate had been until this evening? Kate also wondered about the timeline of William's affair. When had it started? Had there been other women before Sarah? She thought about all the times she had told her friends and family how lucky she was to have found such a wonderful, trustworthy partner. The embarrassment of potentially having to admit that she had been wrong about him felt almost as painful as the betrayal itself. As the night stretched on, Kate realized that her life had fundamentally changed in the span of a few hours. The future she had been planning, the dream she had been nurturing, all of it now seemed uncertain and possibly impossible. She would have to decide what to do with this devastating knowledge. But for now, she could only lie in the darkness beside the stranger who had once been the love of her life. The last thing Kate remembered before finally falling into a fitful sleep was the sound of William's phone buzzing with another message. Even in her half-conscious state, she wondered if it was Sarah again, making plans for their next secret meeting while the woman who loved William lay sleeping just inches away, her heart broken and her trust shattered. Kate woke the next morning feeling like she hadn't slept at all. The events of the previous evening came flooding back to her consciousness before she had even fully opened her eyes. For a brief, blissful moment, she wondered if it had all been a terrible nightmare, but the heavy weight in her chest and the exhaustion in her bones confirmed that everything had been devastatingly real. William's side of the bed was empty, and she could hear him moving around in the kitchen, probably making his usual morning coffee. The normalcy of his routine felt like a mockery of her emotional turmoil. How could he go about his morning as if nothing had changed, when her entire world had been turned upside down? Kate remained in bed for several more minutes, gathering the courage to face another day of pretending everything was fine. She knew she needed time to process what she had discovered and figure out her next steps, but that meant maintaining the facade of their happy relationship while her heart was breaking. When she finally emerged from the bedroom, William greeted her with his usual warm smile and a freshly brewed cup of coffee prepared exactly the way she liked it. The gesture that would normally have made her feel loved and cared for now felt like salt in an open wound. "Good morning, beautiful," he said, kissing her forehead gently. "You look tired. Did you sleep okay?" Kate wanted to scream at him, to demand answers about Sarah and the secret life he was apparently living. Instead, she managed a weak smile and accepted the coffee gratefully. "Just one of those nights," she said, amazed at how normal her voice sounded. William seemed to accept her explanation without question, chatting about his plans for the day while he gathered his laptop and work materials. Kate found herself studying his face intently, looking for any signs of guilt or nervousness, but he appeared completely relaxed and genuine in his affection for her. "I'll probably be late again tonight," William said as he prepared to leave for work. "This project deadline is really killing us. But maybe we can do something special this weekend to make up for it." Kate's heart clenched at his words. Was he really working late, or was he planning to see Sarah again? The uncertainty was almost worse than knowing the truth would be. "That sounds nice," she managed to say. After William left, Kate called in sick to work. She knew she wouldn't be able to concentrate on anything productive, and she needed time to think about her situation without the distraction of client meetings and deadlines. Her boss was understanding, telling her to rest and feel better. Alone in the apartment, Kate felt the full weight of her discovery crushing down on her. She wandered from room to room, seeing their shared life through new eyes. The photographs on the walls showed a happy couple in love, but now they felt like evidence of an elaborate lie. The furniture they had picked out together, the books they had shared, the little domestic details that had once brought her joy, everything felt tainted by William's deception. Kate found herself drawn back to the living room, staring at the coffee table where William's phone had been the night before. She replayed the moment of discovery over and over in her mind, wishing she could somehow go back and change what she had seen. But there was no undoing this knowledge, no way to return to the innocent trust she had felt just 24 hours earlier. She tried to distract herself with mundane tasks, cleaning the apartment, organizing her closet, catching up on laundry. But every activity reminded her of the life she thought she was building with William. Washing his clothes made her wonder if Sarah had touched them. Organizing their shared closet made her question how long she would even be living in this apartment. Around noon, Kate's best friend Jessica called to check on her. Jessica was a nurse who worked irregular shifts, and she had some free time between her hospital rotations. Kate had been debating whether to confide in anyone about what she had discovered, but hearing Jessica's familiar voice on the phone broke down her resolve. "I'm coming over," Jessica announced after Kate tearfully explained what had happened. "Don't argue with me. You shouldn't be alone right now." Jessica arrived within an hour, armed with Kate's favorite ice cream and a box of tissues. She listened without judgment as Kate recounted the previous evening's events in detail, occasionally asking clarifying questions, but mostly just providing a supportive presence. "I feel so stupid," Kate said, curled up on the couch with her head in her hands. "How could I not have seen this coming? There must have been signs I missed." "Don't blame yourself," Jessica said firmly. "You trusted the person you love. That's not stupidity. That's what you're supposed to do in a healthy relationship. William is the one who chose to betray that trust." Jessica's words provided some comfort, but Kate still felt foolish for being so naive. She had always prided herself on being perceptive and intuitive, yet she had been completely blindsided by William's apparent affair. "What do you think I should do?" Kate asked. "Part of me wants to confront him directly, but another part of me is afraid of what I might learn." Jessica considered the question carefully. "I think you need more information before you make any big decisions," she said. "One text message, as suspicious as it looks, might not tell the whole story." But you also can't live in this state of uncertainty forever. They spent the afternoon brainstorming different approaches Kate could take. She could hire a private investigator, though that seemed extreme and expensive. She could try to find Sarah on social media and learn more about her. She could confront William directly and demand the truth. Or she could try to gather more evidence on her own before making any major decisions. "Whatever you decide to do," Jessica said as she prepared to leave for her evening shift, "remember that you deserve honesty and respect in your relationship. Don't let anyone convince you to settle for less than that." After Jessica left, Kate felt slightly more centered, but no less confused about her next steps. She decided to do some detective work of her own, starting with a social media search for Sarah. Since she only had a first name, she began by looking through William's Facebook friends and Instagram followers. The search proved frustrating at first. There were several Sarahs among William's social connections, but none of them seemed like obvious candidates for an affair. Most were clearly work colleagues or mutual friends that Kate recognized. She was about to give up when she decided to check his LinkedIn connections. There, among his professional contacts, she found Sarah Mitchell, a graphic designer at a marketing firm downtown. Her profile picture showed an attractive woman in her late 20s with auburn hair and a warm smile. Kate felt sick to her stomach as she studied Sarah's face, trying to understand what William found appealing about this stranger. Sarah's LinkedIn profile revealed that she was relatively new to Seattle, having moved from Portland about 6 months earlier. Kate's heart sank as she realized the timeline coincided with when William had started staying late at work more frequently. Had they met at some professional networking event? Was their relationship purely physical, or had William developed genuine feelings for this other woman? Kate spent the rest of the afternoon stalking Sarah's social media profiles, looking for any evidence of her relationship with William. Sarah's Instagram showed a lifestyle that seemed appealing. Photos of hiking adventures, artistic coffee shops, and creative projects. She appeared to be single, with no obvious boyfriend visible in her recent posts. Kate wondered if Sarah knew about her existence, or if William had lied to both of them. As evening approached, Kate felt her anxiety increasing. William would be coming home soon, and she would have to face him again while carrying this terrible secret knowledge. She tried to prepare mentally for another night of pretending everything was normal, but the thought of sitting through dinner and conversation while knowing about Sarah felt almost impossible. Kate decided to cook a simple meal that wouldn't require much attention, allowing her to focus on observing William's behavior for any additional clues about his deception. She chose to make grilled chicken and vegetables, something healthy and straightforward that wouldn't demand much mental energy. When William arrived home, he seemed particularly cheerful and energetic. He greeted Kate with more enthusiasm than usual, spinning her around in the kitchen and complimenting her on dinner preparations. His good mood made Kate suspicious. Was he happy because he had spent time with Sarah, or was she reading too much into his normal behavior? "How was your day off?" William asked as they sat down to eat. Feeling better, Kate realized she needed to be careful about her answers, since she had supposedly been sick. "A little better," she said. "I'm mostly just rested and caught up on some reading." William seemed to accept her response, launching into an animated description of his workday. He talked about debugging software issues, brainstorming sessions with his team, and the progress they were making toward their product launch deadline. Kate found herself analyzing every detail of his story, wondering which parts were true and which might be fabrications designed to cover up time spent with Sarah. "Oh, I almost forgot," William said suddenly, reaching for his phone. "My team wants to grab drinks tomorrow night to celebrate finally fixing that major bug we've been working on. You don't mind if I join them, do you?" Kate's heart raced as she processed his words. Was this another lie to cover up plans with Sarah? The timing seemed suspicious, given the message she had seen about Sarah wanting to see him again. But she couldn't confront him without revealing that she had seen his private messages. "Of course not," Kate said, forcing a smile. "You've been working so hard. You deserve to celebrate with your team." William leaned over to kiss her cheek, thanking her for being so understanding. His casual affection felt like a betrayal in itself. How could he touch her so naturally while planning to see another woman? After dinner, they settled into their usual evening routine of watching television together. Kate tried to focus on the show they were watching, but her attention kept drifting to William's behavior. She noticed that he checked his phone several times during commercial breaks, always holding it at an angle that prevented her from seeing the screen. Around 9 o'clock, William's phone rang with an incoming call. He glanced at the screen and quickly declined the call, but not before Kate caught a glimpse of the name. Sarah. Work again? Kate asked, trying to keep her voice neutral. Yeah, probably something about tomorrow's celebration plans, William replied smoothly. I'll call them back later. The lie came so easily to him that Kate felt physically nauseated. She excused herself to the bathroom, where she gripped the sink and stared at her reflection in the mirror. Her face looked pale and strained, and she wondered how long she could maintain this charade before her emotional state became obvious. When she returned to the living room, William was typing a text message. He quickly finished and set the phone aside when he saw her approaching, giving her a bright smile that now felt completely false. Everything okay? He asked. You still look a little under the weather. Kate nodded, settling back onto the couch beside him. She felt like she was living in a parallel universe where everything looked the same on the surface, but had been fundamentally altered underneath. The man sitting next to her looked like William, sounded like William, and acted like William, but he was apparently capable of deception on a level that Kate had never imagined possible. As they prepared for bed, Kate watched William go through his normal nighttime routine. He brushed his teeth, changed into pajamas, and set his phone on the nightstand, but this time she noticed he placed it face down and slightly farther away than usual. Was he being more careful about his messages, or was she simply more aware of his habits now? Lying in bed beside him, Kate felt like a stranger in her own life. The man she had been planning to marry, the person she had trusted with her deepest thoughts and feelings, was living a double life that she was only beginning to understand. Tomorrow night, he would presumably be with Sarah while telling Kate he was celebrating with his work team. The thought of him touching another woman, laughing with her, sharing intimate moments that should belong to Kate alone, it was almost unbearable. But even worse was the realization that this betrayal might have been going on for months without her knowledge. How many nights had William come home to Kate after being with Sarah? How many times had he kissed Kate goodnight while thinking about another woman? Kate realized that she couldn't continue living in this state of uncertainty much longer. She needed to find out the truth about William's relationship with Sarah, even if that truth destroyed everything she thought she knew about her life. Tomorrow, while William was supposedly out celebrating with his coworkers, Kate would find a way to discover exactly what her boyfriend was hiding from her. As she finally drifted off to sleep, Kate couldn't shake the feeling that her old life was ending and something entirely different was about to begin. The only question was whether she would have the strength to handle whatever truth she was about to uncover. The next day passed in a blur of nervous energy and careful planning. Kate went to work as usual, but she found it nearly impossible to concentrate on her projects. Her colleagues noticed her distracted state, with her boss even asking if she was feeling completely recovered from her illness the day before. Kate assured everyone that she was fine, but internally she felt like she was barely holding herself together. All day, Kate's mind raced with different scenarios for the evening ahead. William had confirmed his plans to go out with his team, mentioning that they would probably grab dinner before drinks and that he shouldn't be too late. But Kate was convinced that his real plans involved Sarah, and she was determined to find out the truth. During her lunch break, Kate had called Jessica to update her on the latest developments. Her friend had been supportive, but cautioned Kate about following William or putting herself in potentially dangerous situations. I just think you should be prepared for whatever you might find out, Jessica had said gently, and make sure you have a plan for what you'll do with that information once you have it. Kate appreciated her friend's concern, but she knew she couldn't continue living in limbo. The uncertainty was eating away at her, making it impossible to sleep, work, or function normally. She needed to know the truth, regardless of how painful it might be. That evening, Kate arrived home before William and used the time to prepare for her amateur detective mission. She charged her phone, grabbed a baseball cap and sunglasses for disguise, and made sure she had enough cash for taxi fares in case she needed to follow William somewhere. The whole situation felt surreal. She had never imagined herself spying on someone she loved. When William came home, he seemed particularly attentive and affectionate. He brought Kate flowers, a beautiful bouquet of her favorite yellow roses, and apologized in advance for having to go out on what should have been a quiet evening together. "I promise we'll do something special this weekend," he said, pulling her close for a long hug. "Maybe we could drive up to that bed and breakfast in the mountains you've been wanting to try." Kate accepted the flowers and his embrace, but his kindness felt like cruelty under the circumstances. If he was planning to spend the evening with another woman, why was he being so sweet to her? Was this his way of assuaging his guilt, or was she wrong about everything, and he really was just going out with his coworkers? William showered and changed into casual clothes, dark jeans, and a button-down shirt that Kate had always loved on him. He took extra care with his appearance, spending more time on his hair and cologne than usual. Kate tried to convince herself that these details were meaningless, but they felt like additional evidence of his deception. Before leaving, William kissed Kate goodbye with what seemed like genuine affection. "I love you," he said, looking directly into her eyes. "I should be home by 11 at the latest." "I love you too," Kate replied automatically, the words feeling strange and hollow in her mouth. She watched from the window as William got into his car and drove away, her heart pounding with anticipation and dread. Kate waited 15 minutes before leaving the apartment, giving William enough time to reach his actual destination. She had decided to start her investigation at his office building, reasoning that if he was really meeting coworkers, they would likely gather somewhere nearby. If he wasn't there, she would try to track down Sarah's address and see if he had gone to her place instead. The drive downtown felt like the longest 20 minutes of Kate's life. She parked a block away from William's office building and walked past the usual happy hour spots where his team typically went for drinks. She didn't see William's car in any of the nearby parking areas, and a quick scan of the restaurant and bar windows showed no sign of him or his coworkers. Kate's heart sank as her suspicions seemed to be confirmed. If William wasn't celebrating with his team, where was he? She pulled out her phone and did a reverse lookup on Sarah's address using her LinkedIn profile information. Sarah lived in a trendy neighborhood about 15 minutes away from downtown. The drive to Sarah's neighborhood felt like traveling into enemy territory. Kate had never felt anything like the combination of jealousy, anger, and heartbreak that was currently overwhelming her. Part of her hoped she wouldn't find William's car, that there would be some innocent explanation for his absence from the work celebration. But another part of her needed confirmation of her worst fears. Sarah lived in a converted warehouse building with a small parking lot in the back. As Kate slowly drove through the area, her heart stopped when she spotted William's distinctive blue Honda Civic parked behind the building. For a moment, she just sat in her car, staring at the physical proof of his betrayal. There it was, undeniable evidence that her boyfriend was not where he had claimed he would be. Kate parked across the street, where she could observe the building entrance without being too obvious. She felt like a character in a movie, except this was her real life falling apart before her eyes. The yellow roses William had given her just hours earlier were still sitting on the passenger seat of her car, their sweet fragrance now seeming to mock her naive trust. For nearly 2 hours, Kate waited and watched. She saw various residents coming and going from the building, but no sign of William or Sarah. Kate began to wonder if they were even there, or if William's car had been left behind while they went somewhere else together. The uncertainty was agonizing, but she couldn't bring herself to leave without knowing more. Around 9 o'clock, Kate's patience was finally rewarded, though not in the way she had hoped. William emerged from the building entrance with an attractive auburn-haired woman who could only be Sarah. Even from across the street, Kate could see that they were holding hands and walking close together in a way that left no doubt about the nature of their relationship. Kate watched in horrified fascination as William and Sarah stopped beside his car. They were clearly saying goodbye, but their farewell involved a passionate kiss that lasted much longer than any casual encounter. Kate felt like she was watching her heart break in real time, seeing the man she loved being intimate with someone else. What hurt almost as much as the physical betrayal was the obvious emotional connection between William and Sarah. This wasn't just a casual fling or a moment of weakness. There was genuine affection and intimacy in their interaction. William touched Sarah's face with the same gentle tenderness he had always shown Kate. He looked at her with an expression of care and desire that Kate recognized because it had once been directed at her. After their goodbye kiss, William got into his car while Sarah went back into the building. Kate quickly started her own car and followed William at a distance, curious to see where he would go next. She expected him to head home, but instead he drove to a nearby bar where she could see several of his co-workers gathered around a table. The realization hit Kate like a physical blow. William was going to his work celebration after spending the evening with Sarah. He was going to join his colleagues and create an alibi for his evening, probably texting Kate later to tell her about the fun he had with his team. The premeditation and calculation involved in his deception was breathtaking. Kate couldn't bear to watch anymore. She drove home in a daze, her mind struggling to process everything she had witnessed. The man she loved, the man she had been planning to marry, was living a completely double life. He was apparently skilled enough at deception to maintain relationships with both her and Sarah while keeping them completely separate. Back in their apartment, Kate felt like an intruder in her own home. Everything looked the same as when she had left, but her perspective had been fundamentally altered. The yellow roses William had given her were still fresh and beautiful on the kitchen counter, but now they seemed like props in an elaborate performance rather than genuine tokens of affection. Kate wandered through the apartment, looking at their shared belongings with new eyes. How long had William been planning this deception? Had he bought gifts for Sarah the same way he bought flowers for Kate? Did he tell Sarah he loved her with the same convincing sincerity he had shown Kate just hours earlier? The worst part was realizing how completely she had been fooled. William hadn't seemed nervous or guilty in recent weeks. If anything, he had been more attentive and romantic than usual. Kate now wondered if his increased affection had been motivated by guilt or by the excitement of his secret relationship. Perhaps having Sarah in his life had made him feel more generous with his emotions overall. Kate tried to imagine confronting William when he came home, demanding to know about his relationship with Sarah and his lies about the evening. But she realized she wasn't ready for that conversation yet. She needed time to process what she had learned and decide how she wanted to handle the situation. Around 11:15, Kate heard William's key in the door. She quickly got into bed and pretended to be asleep, not trusting herself to maintain a normal conversation after everything she had witnessed. She listened as William moved quietly through the apartment, apparently trying not to wake her. William went through his normal nighttime routine before slipping into bed beside her. Kate kept her eyes closed and her breathing steady, but every fiber of her being was aware of his presence. This man who had just been kissing another woman was now lying next to her, probably satisfied with how successfully he had managed his evening of deception. "Kate," William whispered softly, "are you awake?" Kate didn't respond, maintaining the pretense of sleep. William settled into bed, and within minutes she could hear his breathing become deep and regular. The fact that he could fall asleep so easily after such an evening of betrayal was perhaps the most painful revelation of all. Lying there in the darkness, Kate realized that her relationship with William was essentially over. There was no coming back from what she had discovered, no way to rebuild trust after such elaborate deception. The only question now was how and when to end things, and whether to give William the opportunity to explain himself or simply walk away without looking back. Kate thought about all the plans they had made together, all the dreams they had shared about their future. None of it had been real from William's perspective, at least not completely real. While Kate had been planning their wedding and imagining their life together, William had been building a relationship with someone else. The betrayal felt overwhelming, but underneath the pain, Kate began to feel something else, a quiet determination to reclaim her life and her dignity. She deserved better than this, and she was going to make sure she got it. Tomorrow, she would begin the process of untangling her life from William's, but tonight, she would allow herself to grieve for the relationship and the future she thought she had. As the hours passed, Kate found herself thinking about Sarah and wondering what role she played in this deception. Did she know about Kate's existence, or was she another victim of William's lies? Kate realized that she might never know the full truth about the situation, but she was certain that she couldn't continue living a lie. The apartment that had once felt like a warm, loving home now felt like a stage set for an elaborate performance that Kate was no longer willing to participate in. Whatever came next, it would be on her terms, based on truth rather than the carefully constructed fiction that her relationship had apparently become. By the time dawn began to break through their bedroom windows, Kate had made her decision. She would confront William about his relationship with Sarah, but she would do it when she was ready and in control of the situation. She owed it to herself to handle this betrayal with dignity and strength, even though her heart was breaking. The next morning arrived with deceptive normalcy. Sunlight streamed through their bedroom windows, and Kate could hear the familiar sounds of the city waking up outside. For a brief moment, she almost forgot about the events of the previous evening, but the weight in her chest quickly reminded her that everything had changed. William was still sleeping peacefully beside her, his face relaxed and innocent in the morning light. Kate studied his features, trying to reconcile this familiar image of the man she loved with the stranger who had been deceiving her for months. How is it possible that someone could look so trustworthy while living such an elaborate lie? Kate quietly slipped out of bed and went to the kitchen to make coffee, needing the ritual of a normal morning routine to help her think clearly. As the coffee brewed, she stared out the window at the Seattle skyline and tried to plan her next steps. She knew she needed to confront William, but she wanted to do it on her own terms, when she felt emotionally prepared for whatever his response might be. While she was standing at the kitchen counter, lost in thought, William appeared behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. Kate tensed at his touch, though she tried to hide her reaction. "Good morning, beautiful," he murmured into her hair. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep," Kate replied, which was entirely true. William turned her around to face him, studying her expression with what appeared to be genuine concern. "You seemed a little off lately. Is everything okay? Are you worried about something at work?" The irony of his caring inquiry was almost unbearable. Here he was, expressing concern about her emotional state, when he was the cause of her distress. Kate wondered if this was how he managed to live with himself, by genuinely caring about her welfare, while simultaneously betraying their relationship. "I'm fine," Kate said, forcing a smile. "Just tired." William seemed to accept her explanation, but he continued to watch her with a slight frown of concern. Kate busied herself with preparing breakfast, grateful to have something to do with her hands while her mind raced. "I was thinking," William said as they sat down to eat, "maybe we should plan a real vacation soon. We've both been working so hard, and I feel like we haven't had quality time together in weeks." Kate almost choked on her coffee. The suggestion of a romantic getaway felt like the ultimate mockery, given what she now knew about his secret relationship. Did he truly believe they could continue their life together while he carried on with Sarah? Or was this another layer of deception, designed to throw her off the scent of his affair? "That sounds nice," Kate managed to say, though the words felt like ash in her mouth. William brightened at her response and began enthusiastically discussing possible destinations. He suggested a wine-tasting trip to California, a beach vacation in Hawaii, or a romantic weekend in Vancouver. Kate listened to his excited planning while feeling like she was watching a movie about someone else's life. After William left for work, Kate called in sick again, knowing she needed more time to prepare for the conversation that would inevitably end their relationship. Her boss was beginning to sound concerned about her health, but Kate promised to see a doctor if she wasn't feeling better soon. Alone in the apartment, Kate began the painful process of mentally separating her life from William's. She looked around at their shared belongings and tried to figure out what was truly hers. The furniture they had bought together, the kitchen appliances they had chosen as a couple, the artwork they had selected for their walls, all of it would need to be divided or abandoned. Kate realized that she would probably need to find a new place to live. The apartment lease was in both their names, but she couldn't imagine continuing to live there with William, and she certainly couldn't afford the rent on her own. The practical implications of ending their relationship were almost as overwhelming as the emotional ones. Around noon, Kate made the difficult decision to call her sister Emma, who lived across the country in Boston. Emma was 3 years older and had always been Kate's closest confidant during major life crises. Kate knew that telling Emma about the situation would make it feel more real, but she needed someone to talk to who could help her think through her options. "Oh, honey," Emma said after Kate finished explaining the situation. "I'm so sorry. I know how much you loved him, how much you thought he loved you." The sympathy in Emma's voice broke down the emotional barriers Kate had been trying to maintain. She found herself sobbing into the phone, releasing days of pent-up grief and anger. "I just don't understand how I could have been so wrong about him," Kate cried. "I thought I knew him better than anyone. We talked about getting married, having children, growing old together. How could all of that have been meaningless to him?" Emma listened patiently as Kate poured out her heartbreak and confusion. When Kate had finally exhausted herself with crying, Emma offered practical advice about protecting herself financially and emotionally during the breakup process. "The most important thing," Emma said, "is that you don't let him convince you that this is somehow your fault or that you should fight for a relationship with someone who has been lying to you for months. You deserve so much better than this." After talking to Emma, Kate felt slightly more grounded but no less heartbroken. She spent the rest of the day researching apartment listings and trying to figure out what her life might look like without William. The process was terrifying but also oddly liberating. For the first time in years, she was making decisions based entirely on her own preferences and needs. When William came home that evening, he seemed to be in an exceptionally good mood. He brought takeout from Kate's favorite Thai restaurant and suggested they watch a comedy special on Netflix. His cheerfulness felt almost aggressive in contrast to Kate's emotional state. "You seem happier today," Kate observed, unable to keep the edge out of her voice. "I guess I am," William replied with a bright smile. "Work is going really well, and I'm just grateful to have you in my life. Sometimes I think about how lucky I am, and it just makes me appreciate everything we have together." Kate stared at him in amazement. How could he say these things with such apparent sincerity while carrying on a relationship with another woman? Was he really that skilled at compartmentalizing his emotions, or did he genuinely believe his own lies? During dinner, William was more attentive and romantic than he had been in weeks. He complimented Kate's appearance, asked detailed questions about her day, and made jokes that would normally have made her laugh. Under different circumstances, Kate would have been delighted by his affectionate behavior. Now, it felt like a cruel mockery of their relationship. After dinner, William suggested they take a walk around their neighborhood, something they used to do regularly but had abandoned in recent months. Kate agreed, partly because she wanted to observe his behavior more closely and partly because she was afraid of what she might say if they spent the evening alone in the apartment. As they walked hand in hand through the quiet streets, William talked enthusiastically about his work projects and asked Kate about her plans for the weekend. The normalcy of the conversation felt surreal, given what Kate knew about his secret life. She found herself wondering if Sarah was waiting for a text from him or if they had plans to see each other later in the weekend. When they returned home, William immediately went to check his phone, which he had left charging on the kitchen counter. Kate watched as his face lit up while reading what appeared to be several text messages. He typed a quick response before setting the phone aside and giving Kate his full attention. "Want to watch that new documentary about the national parks?" he suggested, settling onto the couch and patting the cushion beside him. Kate joined him, but she couldn't focus on the television. All she could think about was the person who had just texted him and how he was managing to act so normal while leading a double life. The documentary about pristine natural landscapes felt like a bitter irony. Everything on the screen was beautiful and unspoiled, while her own life had been contaminated by lies and betrayal. During a commercial break, Kate made a spontaneous decision that surprised even her. "William," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "We need to talk about something." William muted the television and turned to face her with an expression of mild curiosity. "Sure, what's on your mind?" Kate looked into his eyes, those familiar brown eyes that had once made her feel safe and loved, and saw a stranger looking back at her. "I know about Sarah," she said simply. The change in William's expression was immediate and dramatic. The color drained from his face, and his mouth opened slightly, as if he were struggling to find words. For several long seconds, they stared at each other in complete silence while the muted television flickered with images of mountain landscapes. "Kate, William started to speak, then stopped, his voice trailing off helplessly. "I saw the text message on your phone Tuesday night," Kate continued, amazed at how calm her voice sounded. "I followed you yesterday when you said you were going out with your coworkers. I saw you with her." William's face went from pale to ashen. He opened and closed his mouth several times, looking like a fish gasping for air. Kate had never seen him a loss for words before. He had always been articulate and confident, able to explain or rationalize anything. Now he simply sat there, stunned into the silence that would haunt both of them. "How long has this been going on?" Kate asked when it became clear that William wasn't going to volunteer any information. William ran his hands through his hair, a gesture Kate recognized as something he did when he was extremely stressed. "Kate, I never meant for you to find out like this." "How long, William?" Kate repeated, her voice harder now. "About 4 months," he whispered, finally meeting her eyes. "It started at a networking event downtown. We just started talking, and then you decided to have a relationship with her while lying to me about it," Kate finished for him. William flinched as if she had slapped him. "It's not that simple. I never planned for this to happen. I love you, Kate. I've always loved you. You love me." Kate's voice rose despite her efforts to stay calm. "You love me, but you've been sleeping with another woman for 4 months? You love me, but you lie to my face every single day? You bought me flowers yesterday before going to see her. What kind of love is that?" "I know how it looks," William said desperately, "but it's not what you think. Sarah and it's complicated. We have a connection, but it doesn't mean I don't love you too." Kate stared at him in disbelief. "You love both of us? Is that supposed to make me feel better? You think you can just have 2 relationships simultaneously, and that's okay because you have feelings for both women?" "No, I know it's not okay," William said, his voice breaking. "I know I've hurt you, and I hate myself for that. I've been trying to figure out what to do, how to handle this situation." "Handle this situation?" Kate repeated incredulously. "This isn't a situation, William. This is our relationship, our life together, and you've been destroying it with lies for months. How are you planning to handle it? Were you going to choose between us eventually, or just keep both relationships going indefinitely?" William looked down at his hands, unable to meet her gaze. "I don't know," he admitted. "I kept thinking maybe it would resolve itself somehow, that I would figure out what I really wanted." Kate felt a surge of rage at his selfishness. "What you really wanted? What about what I wanted? What about the life we were building together? What about the conversations we've had about marriage and our future? Were all of those lies too?" "No," William said urgently, looking up at her again. "I meant everything I said about our future. I don't want to marry you, Kate. I want to have a life with you. But you also want to have a life with Sarah," Kate said flatly. William's silence was answer enough. Kate stood up from the couch, needing to put physical distance between them. She felt like she was drowning in the reality of how thoroughly their relationship had been contaminated by his deception. "I need you to leave," she said quietly. "Kate, please," William pleaded, also standing. "Can we talk about this? Can we try to work through it? I know I've made terrible mistakes, but what we have together is real. It means everything to me." "What we have together is a lie," Kate replied. "I've been living in a relationship that only existed in my imagination. You've been living a completely different reality, and I can't trust anything you've told me." "Where am I supposed to go?" William asked, seeming to realize for the first time that his actions had consequences. "I don't know," Kate said honestly. "Maybe you can stay with Sarah. Maybe you can stay with a friend. Maybe you can get a hotel room. That's not my problem to solve anymore." William looked around the apartment as if seeing it for the first time, perhaps realizing that he was about to lose not just Kate, but the entire life they had built together. "Can I at least pack some clothes?" he asked quietly. Kate nodded, not trusting herself to speak. She watched as William moved toward their bedroom, his shoulders slumped in defeat. For a moment, she almost felt sorry for him. He looked lost and broken, like a man who had just realized the full extent of what his choices had cost him. But then, Kate remembered the sight of him kissing Sarah, the lies he had told so easily, the months of deception that had made a mockery of everything she thought they shared. Her sympathy evaporated, replaced by a cold determination to protect herself from any further hurt. 20 minutes later, William emerged from the bedroom with a duffel bag packed with essentials. He stood in the doorway of the living room, looking at Kate with an expression of desperate hope. "Kate, I know I don't deserve it, but is there any chance you might be willing to talk about this again? Maybe in a few days, when you've had time to process everything." Kate looked at the man she had loved more than anyone else in the world and felt nothing but sadness for what they had lost. "I don't think so, William," she said softly. "I think we're done." William's face crumpled at her words, but he didn't argue. He walked to the door, paused with his hand on the handle, and turned back one last time. "I really did love you," he said. "I know you don't believe that now, but it was real." "Maybe it was," Kate replied, "but it wasn't enough." After William left, Kate sank back onto the couch and, finally, allowed herself to cry for everything she had lost. But underneath the grief, she felt something unexpected: relief. The terrible uncertainty was over. The lies had been exposed, and she was finally free to begin rebuilding her life based on truth rather than deception. It would take time to heal from this betrayal, and there would be many difficult days ahead. But Kate knew that she had done the right thing by refusing to accept a relationship built on lies, no matter how much she had loved the person telling them. She deserved better than what William had offered her, and someday she would find it.